Stressful thoughts come in bunches, just like grapes. One thought is enough to get started. When I first started doing the work in 2007, I didn't use the Judge Your Neighbor worksheet. For 3 years, all I did was pick one thought to work each time I sat to do the work. I simply scanned my experience and identified a thought that was bothering me. This is called working a one-liner, a single thought to question. In 2010, when I was at Turnaround House, I discovered the power of the Judge Your Neighbor worksheet. Instead of identifying one thought to question, I could identify many related thoughts on one worksheet. I learned how to go deeply into one stressful moment and identify each part of my stressful story to write on each line of the Judge Your Neighbor worksheet. This really deepened my work. Today, I mainly use the Judge Your Neighbor worksheet. I find it to be a very powerful way of identifying my stressful thoughts to work. But I don't exclusively use the Judge Your Neighbor worksheet. I find that some thoughts do not fit into a Judge Your Neighbor worksheet, and for those, I still use the one-liner approach. For example, sometimes I simply need to question a motive that is causing me stress. I used this some years ago when I questioned the thought, I want to make a living as a facilitator. This thought was not about a neighbor, so the Judge Your Neighbor worksheet wasn't appropriate. So I questioned it simply as a one-liner. However, there were related worksheets that I did write. For example, I wrote a Judge Your Neighbor worksheet on Katie, Byron Katie, in a specific situation where she invited me to not make a living as a facilitator. And so I used that moment to go deeply into what are all the stressful thoughts that I had and judgments that I had, and I wrote those on a Judge Your Neighbor worksheet, and it was very powerful. My worksheet on her covered things that my one-liner did not. Also, I wrote a Judge Your Neighbor worksheet on my mom, who wanted me to be successful. And so by writing these Judge Your Neighbor worksheets on other people involved, it added dimension to my inquiry. So I find that it's a little of both. Sometimes I write a Judge Your Neighbor worksheet, and I find additional one-liners to questions. And other times I start by questioning one-liners and sometimes find a Judge Your Neighbor worksheet that I can write. With both approaches, I can cover any topic. And I also write clusters of one-liners. Most commonly, these come out as lists of one-liners. I might write a list of my fears for doing something, or a list of reasons why I can't do something, or a list of complaints about a situation that I'm in. And when I want to go even deeper, I use the following prompts to get even more one-liners to add to my list. I use prompts like, and it means. So just going a little deeper, what is really bothering me here? And what are the reasons why I think it's true? My list of proof. That can be very powerful. And then what am I wanting here? These are motives. So for example, if I wrote a one-liner, I'm not a good facilitator, I can question this one-liner directly. Of course, I'm not a good facilitator. Is it true? Can you absolutely know it's true? Etc. But I can also use the prompts that I just mentioned to come up with additional stressful thoughts to question. For example, I can use the prompt, and it means that. So if the statement is, I'm not a good facilitator, and it means that I won't have many clients, or people will talk badly about me, or I'll have to hide my head in shame, or who knows, whatever stressful thoughts you may have running connected to that particular thing. Or I can use the prompt, what are all the reasons why I think it's true? So like a list of proof. I'm not a good facilitator because I don't interrupt people quickly enough when they step out of the work, or not everyone I work with is satisfied, or I don't always follow the script. So these are like my blocks of proof that hold up the stressful thought. And then when you question those, you take away the base for that particular stressful thought, and the whole thing may begin to crumble and fall away. Or you can use the prompt, what am I wanting here? So it's I'm not a good facilitator. If that's the original thought, then what is the want, underlying want? I want to be a good facilitator. Simple. I want others to praise me. I want to help people. These wants, innocent as they may seem, can actually be stressful thoughts They can get you caught up in a loop of trying to get somewhere where you're maybe not able to, or get attached to some outcomes. And these are wonderful to question as well. So as you see, I've gathered a cluster of one-liners. Even when I'm not using the Judge Your Neighbor worksheet, I can find a group of related stressful thoughts to question. When I question all of them, I'm giving thorough treatment to all the different facets of my story. You can find more prompts and ways of finding additional related one-liners in Chapter 5 of Byron Katie's book, Loving What Is. And if you've never read that book, it's a great introduction to the work of Byron Katie. So I'll stop by I'll end by reading a quote from Byron Katie's book, Loving What Is. A powerful way of prompting yourself is to add, "and it means that," to your original statement. Your suffering may be caused by a thought that interprets what happened, rather than the thought you wrote down. This additional phrase prompts you to reveal your interpretation of the fact.